anxiety, brain fog, low mood, did you know that your gut might be behind much more than you think? So I'd like to welcome Dr. Marilyn Glenville PhD, the UK's leading nutritionist specialising in women's health. Dr. Marilyn is a registered nutritionist, psychologist, broadcaster and former president of the Food and Health Forum at the Royal Society of Medicine. She earned her doctorate from Cambridge University and has spent over 35 years studying and practicing nutritional medicine, specialising in female hormone health. She's also author of 17 internationally best-selling books and a popular speaker worldwide. So in her talk, Your Gut is Talking, are you listening? Dr. Glenville will take us through the powerful mind-gut connection, showing how your microbiome can influence stress, mood and overall mental well-being. You'll discover practical, evidence-based strategies to support your gut and in turn your mental health. Small gut shifts, big mental health gains. So please give a warm welcome to Dr. Marilyn Glenville.
So thank you very much for coming out today. Yes, I do specialise in women's health, but what I'm going to talk about is applicable to both men and women. And I originally trained as a psychologist and then went into nutrition. So it's interesting, this whole aspect of mind and body and how it's linked together. And in 2019, I was privileged to be invited to an international congress on trauma in London and presented to 500 psychiatrists, psychologists from around the world on nutrition and how it can affect our mind. And it was the first time they'd ever thought about putting the nutrition into a conference on mental health, stress and anxiety. So really interesting. So I'm going to cover quite a lot. We've only got a short time together, but I know some of you will have different concerns. So I thought if I cover quite a lot, then it's going to be applicable to a lot of people. So we've now got new terminology. They're talking about nutritional psychiatry, nutritional psychology, which is brilliant, and how the research is looking at how our diet could actually be a modifiable risk factor for stress, mental health and well-being. Is it crackling a bit, the mic? Shall I move it away a bit? Yeah. So, and this is from the International Society for Nutritional Psychiatry Research from the Lancet, and they're saying recognition of diet and nutrients as central determinants of both physical and mental health. They're saying it's as important as cardiology, endocrinology, to put the nutritional side into mental health, mood, stress and anxiety. Now I'm going to look at this in a number of different ways to show you a lot of different connections. And for me, always from the nutritional side is to see you as a whole person. And it's not. I know when you go medically, you might be broken up into a gastroenterologist, endocrinologist, and you're broken down into sections, but your body isn't like that. And that's where this whole understanding of what's going on with our digestive system and how it can affect us mentally. So you've got this second brain. You've got a nervous system in your gut. We even use words like butterflies in your tummy, a gut reaction. And you've got more nerve cells in your gut than in your spinal cord, and the same neurotransmitters as found in your brain. And serotonin, if you think of that as your feel-good neurotransmitter, 95% is in your gut, 5% is in your central nervous system. So this is really powerful. When we look at the beneficial bacteria, you've got 100,000 billion of these bacteria within your gut. They improve your nutrition, they manufacture the B vitamins and vitamin K, which is important for bone health, and they help you digest your food. And if you walk through the digestive tract there, you'll know that 70% of your immune system is in your gut. So as we go through to the winter months and you think of things like zinc and vitamin C, you've got to think of your beneficial bacteria too. And they improve detoxification. They stop food sitting in there too long where it could ferment and putrefy, and it's enabling that food to move through smoothly. I haven't got time to talk about it today, but they help you eliminate hormones. So they're important for all of this detoxification and elimination side of it. And it's this two-way street. This is this understanding now of the communication between your brain and your gut and your brain, and this is going backwards and forwards, and your brain acts on your immune functions within the gut, and it changes the gut microbiome, and then the gut microbes themselves make these neuroactive compounds like the serotonin, other neurotransmitters, and that's going backwards and forwards. So that's why this is so important. And they're now suggesting that for mental health, we should be thinking from the gut. The microbiome may yield a new class of psychobiotics for the treatment of anxiety, depression, and other mood disorders. This gives so much potential of, yes, people will need the counselling, maybe other medication as well, but there's extra that can be added to it. And this is from the New Scientist, this is 2019, Healthy Gut, Happy Brain, how what you eat directly influences your mental health. So it means there's more control over what we can actually do to help somebody improve their mood, improve their mental health and anxiety, alongside what they might be doing under the mental health side of it. So this is probiotics and stress. I thought I'd show you some of the research. Oftentimes this research gets stuck in the medical literature. People who need to know about it don't get to hear it, and I think that's really important. So this is probiotics can reduce how stressed people feel, and they may serve as a low-risk intervention for reducing anxiety. They help to calm your body down. And this was a trial, a randomized control trial, so half the patients were given probiotics, half were given dummy pills, with mild to moderate depression, only over 6 weeks, so it wasn't very long, significant reduction in depression with those taking the probiotic. And then this one was people with a major depressive disorder who were already on medication, and they either added a dummy pill or a probiotic supplement. Increase in lactobacillus was associated with decreased depressive symptoms. And my feeling around this is you've got nothing to lose. There's no downside to adding any of this in and making changes with your diet. There's no negative side of it. There's only going to be an upside. So I've just put this one up here because I have a passion around women's health, and we have a set of bacteria within the gut itself. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's called the estrobolome, and it's this unique, I know, it came from America, they called it estrobolome, and it's a collection of bacteria that actually help you metabolize estrogen, and it actually makes sure that the estrogen that you produce, and the same for all of us, men and women, the estrogens that may be coming in from the environment, are foreign estrogens, it enables the body to detoxify and eliminate them and pull them out. And this is what's happening within the gut. I'll show you a test at the end that actually measures what's going on. And it only functions properly, this is estrobolome, if you have good levels of beneficial bacteria. So that's why the beneficial bacteria are so important in terms of helping you detoxify and eliminate not only waste products, but also hormones that either your body doesn't need anymore, or foreign estrogens that have come in from the environment. So I put up here, I formulated some supplements for the natural health practice. We had bought just a few with you because I run a clinic. I was in Harley Street before COVID, now most of it's on Zoom anyway, but it was making sure that in any supplement you take, that there's nothing else in there that you don't need. No preservatives, no artificial sweeteners, nothing else, no anti-caking agents. So this is a Natural Health Practice Advanced Probiotic Support. It's got 12 billion bifidobacteria strains, 10 billion lactobacillus. Also prebiotics. Prebiotics are the fuel that keep your bacteria colonizing and populating. And then also gamma oryzanol. So some people get a lot of cramps and spasms. They can feel that peristalsis, and that's uncomfortable. And gamma oryzanol, which is a natural substance, helps to soothe the digestive tract. And it's also got glutamine. I haven't got time to talk about it today, but it's an amino acid that helps prevent leaky gut. And leaky gut makes you more sensitive to different foods because food particles escape through the gut wall and your immune system reacts to them, and it shouldn't be reacting to them outside of this, because it's really a tube, like the tube out there, a tube from your mouth to your anus. So this is mood and microbes. These bacteria could eventually be used the way we now use Prozac or Valium. I think these microbes will have a real effect on how we treat these disorders. This is a whole new way to modulate brain function. We have so much potential with these. Now I'm going to take this a little bit further than just the gut, because I think there's much more you can add to it as well. So what's really important is to think about how you feed your gut microbiome. And the biggest research and the most beneficial diet, if we think of it as a diet, in terms of everything, cardiovascular disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, is actually the Mediterranean diet. And it's associated with significant beneficial changes in the gut and plays a role in improving mood and dealing with stress. And it has the most beneficial effect generally across the board. So it's a really good, I tend not to say the word diet, because what you want to have is a way of eating that becomes a way of life. But most of the time you're eating like that. It's not a diet that you're going to do for a few weeks and then you stop and you eat in a different way. You end up with a way of eating that 80% of the time, forget the birthdays and the weddings, that you can actually eat like that. So I'm going to talk about the stress response, and you've got this fight or flight survival mechanism. These adrenal glands sit on top of your kidneys at the back, and you've got adrenaline, makes you alert and focused, and you've got cortisol, which releases fat and sugar into your bloodstream. But if you look at how stress affects your body, you're looking at not only the brain side, the mood we're talking about today, depression, irritability, mind fog, or brain fog as we call it, cardiovascular, joints and muscles, immune system, skin, definitely your gut, and that nutrient absorption, and also the reproductive system as well. And even words like, often people will be diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome. It's a diagnosis of exclusion, there's nothing coming up on the test, and then the question is, why is the bowel irritable? And they're looking very closely at irritable bowel syndrome and then stress and anxiety, which is giving messages down to the gut itself. So, stress and your gut microbiome. Stress causes negative bacteria to thrive. And we talk about gut dysbiosis. What gut dysbiosis means is that you've got an imbalance of the beneficial bacteria compared to the negative bacteria. Oh! Did you spot that? Thank you very much. I got so tied up with the slides, I didn't even see it. That would have been a bit...
You just need to press cancel.
Yeah, press cancel. Oh. You can't use that on there. Is it plugged in? Well, thank you for that. We'd have gone a bit black, wouldn't we? A bit dark. Well, in the meantime, I'm going to read you out some symptoms. And we're talking about irritability. Oh, I've got the wrong bit. Irritability, aggressive outbursts, nervousness, depression, crying spells, dizziness, fears and anxiety, confusion, forgetfulness, inability to concentrate, fatigue, insomnia, headaches, palpitations, muscle cramps, excess sweating, digestive problems, and lack of sex drive. Everybody all right this afternoon? Now I'm going to share with you something that I would suggest you try, because it's something, I've been in the clinic over 35 years now, and it's something so practical, and it can make such a difference to these symptoms that can seem completely unrelated. So we got up to the stress side. Yeah, so that adrenal response can be triggered by a traumatic event. I'll try. Catherine, is it all right if I put that back on there?
Yeah, I think it was the television, not the laptops. Sorry about
Oh, don't worry, I'll leave. I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm going to leave that like that.
You
That's
happy?
okay. Yeah, happy. So, and it obviously is triggered by a traumatic event. And all the time, nutritionally, we're thinking, what can you control? And you probably, with something traumatic, something like a bereavement, car accident, you can't do anything. But it's also triggered by a pattern of eating. And that's really important because this is something you can do about it. So, we're going to look at how you control the stress response nutritionally. When you eat, your blood sugar, your blood glucose goes up. The more this rise goes up, the more insulin your pancreas has to deal with that rise in blood sugar. The difficulty is the higher this goes up, the lower it drops. And we talk about hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. Now your body doesn't like it, so it's going to do two things. It's going to send you off for that quick fix, a cup of tea and a biscuit, chocolate bar. And the other thing it does is it releases your stress hormones, adrenaline and cortisol. Because in that real life or death situation, and you're going to run or fight for your life, your body's going to have instant energy. So as soon as those stress hormones are released, it releases your sugar stores for you to run or fight for your life. The opposite is happening here, that your blood sugars drop low, and in order to release the sugar stores, it's releasing the same stress hormones. And so you can end up on this roller coaster. And those symptoms I read out can be due to low blood sugar, hypoglycemia. And I'm suggesting put this into place first and see how many of those symptoms, both physically and mentally, disappear. I have seen such tremendous changes by just doing some small steps. So, you've got more of the stress hormones being released just due to a pattern of eating. Yes, it will have happened outside of you as well, but it's making the whole feelings and everything worse. And I know people have come into the clinic and said, well, there's things going on financially with the job, in-laws, children at home, all of this juggling of the balls. Come back a few weeks later, and I remember one particular lady said to me, I can't change anything outside of myself. And I said, I understand that. She said, but I feel I'm able to cope. I can make decisions, I feel much calmer, I'm able to see this and manage the situation because she's not releasing extra stress hormones just due to a pattern of eating. So the big one is think about taking out or reducing added sugar and the refined carbohydrates like the white flour, the white rice. You want to stop that hit on your bloodstream because as soon as it goes up, out will come insulin. And obviously that's a risk with pre-diabetes, type 2 diabetes, but you're going to crash down into that hypoglycemia. And out will come those stress hormones. So don't switch then to the artificial sweeteners. Now they've been looking at the research and it affects your gut bacteria within 2 weeks in terms of making the gut bacteria into a negative situation. But it increases the risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease and being overweight. You think, well, a lot of people are using the diet drinks and the artificial sweeteners in their food when they're on a diet. So what on earth is going on? Because your brain is really clever. If you have a slice of cake, it comes with a bulk of calories and a sense of sweetness. When you've got the artificial sweeteners, you've got the sweetness and not the calories. And what the research shows is your body will go after the calories from somewhere else. And they talk about your brain expecting this caloric reward. It ups your appetite afterwards, so you end up putting on more weight. You've got the increased risk of type 2 diabetes, but in the context of what we're talking about today, it really is wiping out your wonderful beneficial bacteria. Now I've put this up and I know it's very fashionable and I'm going to say something different. If you restrict your calories, so you decide to do alternate day, 5-2, intermittent, whatever you want to call it, on some of those fasting days you may be only on 500, 600 calories. If you restrict your calories, it increases the stress response. Your body thinks there's a famine going on out there, there's a shortage of food. It's survival. It's a stress. And so it increases cortisol. So what we know is if you're already stressed or anxious, that kind of way of eating is actually going to make it much worse. And you're going to wake up in the morning with a higher cortisol in that fight or flight mode, ready for a fight, irritable, not having enough energy. And breakfast is breaking the fast. Calms down that response so you can start the day. Somebody sent me this lovely cartoon. You can see it. It's 5 glasses of wine and 2 muffins. That could be a 5-2 diet, do you think? Only joking, really. So, I'm going to suggest that if you have a lot of stress going on in your life, if you recognise yourself in the symptoms that I read out, try something different. Just even for 10 days, 2 weeks. Switch it completely differently. Eat little and often. Breakfast, lunch and dinner, mid-morning snack, mid-afternoon. You are keeping this stability in that roller coaster. You're not going up and down. You've got a stable blood sugar. You're going to have more energy. Your cravings will go, because if you don't go into hypoglycemia, your body's not sending you off with a quick fix. It doesn't need it. Your blood sugar steadies, and so will your moods, because they're not on that roller coaster either. And the big one, you are going to feel less stressed, because the stress hormones are not being released due to your pattern of eating. It's something so simple that no matter what's going on outside of your life and whatever you're dealing with, you cut down the amount of those stress hormones that your body is producing. So watch the stimulants. Just be a bit careful if you are. It may not be for you sugar, it may be more the caffeine that's making, because it's a stimulant. It's going to stimulate that adrenal response. And watch the alcohol, because you may be using it to actually feel more relaxed, but over time it can end up with a feeling of, or a dependency around it. So, and it won't be beneficial for your gut microbiome. So watch the alcohol side of it. So I'm going to talk about some important nutrients. Of course, the beneficial bacteria are important, but we can do much more in helping calm your body down, reducing anxiety, just enabling you to cope better. You've got your B vitamins. They're important for balancing your blood sugar. We think of them as your anti-stress vitamins. They play a crucial role in that synthesis of serotonin, which is going on in your gut and also in your brain. It's B5 that is the major one for the adrenal glands, and B6 for the more of those neurotransmitters, and B12. So make sure, if you are mainly plant-based, you make sure you've got a B12 going in there for the nervous system. Now, I've always found in the clinic that it's much better to do a combination of nutrients rather than think, oh, I'll take a bit of B5, because they work synergistically together, and that's what gives things its power, same as when we eat the foods as well. There is a herb called Siberian ginseng, and it acts like a tonic to your adrenal glands, and is a really useful herb. It's very different from Panax or Korean ginseng, which could actually make you more hyper. And then we've got a mineral called chromium, and it's the one that's had the most research in terms of cravings, helping with weight loss, and it works in terms of helping the action of insulin, so important for people with pre-diabetes and also type 2 diabetes. But really good if stress is making you go for the comfort food, cakes, the biscuits, even alcohol. And this was a study, again it was a randomized controlled trial, so chromium versus a dummy pill. This was only done on women in this trial who were getting carbohydrate cravings. The chromium reduced the cravings, the food intake, and also they lost more weight as well. So it's a really valuable mineral, but again, have it combined with everything else. Don't just think, oh, I'll just take a bit of chromium. And I put up here magnesium. When you're under stress, your body needs more of it, and then you use more of it, and you go around in a vicious circle if you haven't got enough. But we call it nature's tranquilizer, and it's really important in calming your whole body down, particularly muscles. So if you get a lot of cramps, restless legs, tremors, also tics, side of your eye, that sort of thing. And they know that if you haven't got enough magnesium, it may cause more anxiety, agitation, irritability, not sleeping well. So generally really important for calming your body down. And then there's an amino acid called L-theanine. And I use this a lot, and also in younger people who are in stressful jobs, deadlines, or going for exams, where you want that sense of calmness, but you've still got to have the focus and the sharpness without feeling drowsy from something. So it's really good in terms of calming the body without causing drowsiness, and reduces both mental and physical stress. So again, just to show you what we use in the clinic, this is a natural health practice. It's called Tranquil Support for men and women, and we use it for teenagers as well. But it's got the magnesium, L-theanine, Siberian ginseng, chromium, B vitamins, turmeric, also aloe vera, because that stress response may be affecting the gut. It's 3 a day, and we suggest that you use it as needed. That you might wake up in the morning and it's complete overload. So you'd use 2 in the morning, 1 at night, or you shift it the other way round, 1 in the morning, 2 at night. You can do 1, 1, 1, but some people don't want to carry supplements around with them middle of the day. You use it as you want to. You might have a deadline and then you're going on holiday, so you stop it. So it's very flexible. It doesn't have to be taken all the time unless you've got an ongoing stress situation where you need more support. So we have some women who take it at Christmas when the in-laws come round and then stop it after. So it's quite flexible. I'm going to talk a little bit about the omega-3 essential fats, because this is something that's come up fairly widely in the research. And when we talk about essential, what it means is you cannot manufacture them in your body. The only way you get them is from the outside in. So if you've gone on a low-fat or a no-fat diet, then the likelihood you are missing these essential fats. We're supposed to have about a ratio of omega-6 to 3, about a 1-to-1. But you'll see there we're getting much too much omega-6 and not enough 3. And you might think, is that a big deal? And it is a big deal. There are deficiency symptoms associated with not enough omega-3, and it's like your body is drying out from the inside out. It needs that lubrication for your joints, your skin, your hair, everything, and your brain as well. Both mentally and physically we need them. And I'll put up here, on the right hand side are your omega-6 fatty acids, and we talk about getting them from seed oils like sunflower oil, sesame oil. You see even primrose oil there, which a lot of women have used sometimes for 10 years or more for PMS. You've got omega-3 there, and you follow it all the way down, and they are anti-inflammatory. If you follow the omega-6s down, they're pro-inflammatory. They're actually creating an inflammatory response in the body. Now, any condition with an ITIS on it is inflammation. Gastritis, arthritis, ulcerative colitis, dermatitis, Hashimoto's thyroiditis, tendinitis. You could go on and on and on. All it is that inflammation is affecting different parts of your body. And that's what they've been finding, is that because our diet is going more towards the omega-6, it's creating much more inflammation generally. This was a mouse study. They got a group of mice and split them in half. This half were fed on omega-3, this half were on omega-6, and you're looking at the knee joint and that destruction and inflammation within the joint. This is so important. The problem is we've got the omega-6 coming down the food chain. A lot of vegetable oils and things we buy, and we're not getting enough of the omega-3s generally. And what we're talking about today in terms of depression and mood, not just the inflammation side of it, which covers any sort of pain, redness, soreness, then looking at what's going on mentally with these omega-3s. If you have severe symptoms of depression, this was the study, you've got lower levels of omega-3 and a higher level of omega-6. It's pushing it the wrong way in terms of that ratio. Higher omega-6 to 3 seen in those with major depression compared to those with no signs of depression, or minor depression. So it's affecting us mentally as well as physically. And this was a meta-analysis, and that's where they combine a number of studies together. This was 26 studies, 2,000 participants. General beneficial effect of omega-3 on depression and EPA. So the different components of omega-3 are DHA and EPA, and it was the EPA that was the most important factor when they were looking at depression. And you need a level of over 720 milligrams per day. So if you take an omega-3 supplement, you're not looking at the amount of omega-3, you want to know how much EPA and DHA is in there. So omega-3 and stress can help to relieve depression, reduce anxiety, and being able to handle stress as well, coping better, as well as the general anti-inflammatory effects throughout your body. So this is this huge amount of research now. So PUFFAs means polyunsaturated fatty acids. You've got all the cardiovascular disease side of it, because the omega-3s help with blood flow. They stop blood clotting abnormally, which could be affecting stroke, cardiovascular. Then the neurological disorders. I've written a book on Alzheimer's and dementia. Huge amount of research on omega-3s and how we could use it to either work on prevention or slow the progression, but any kind of neurological, so Parkinson's as well, you'll see major depression there, and then all of the inflammatory and metabolic disorders, type 2 diabetes, inflammatory bowel disease, rheumatoid arthritis. So it's both this mental effect, but also this physical effect as well. So this is the one we use in the clinic. It's the Natural Health Practice Omega-3 support, and this is the kind of level that you're looking for if you're already taking an omega-3. You want 770 milligrams of EPA a day, 510. And we can test, and I'll show you just before we finish, we can check your omega-6 and 3 level with just a finger prick test, goes into a vial and sends off to the lab. And my suggestion is if you've got a lot of inflammation going on in your body, it is definitely worth testing. And we've tested hundreds, and everybody's been too high on the omega-6 to start with, and not enough of the omega-3. So I'm just going to cover sleep to finish, because when we think of mental health, and we talked about the gut microbiome, they're now looking at chronic insomnia, maybe increasing the risk of a mood disorder such as anxiety or depression. So it's now much more than just it's affecting your energy the next day and you're not so productive. It's what it may be doing extra to that. So 1 in 3 people are affected by insomnia. It could be difficulty getting off to sleep, it could be waking up in the middle of the night, it could be both. But it's this other research that can increase the risk of type 2 diabetes, cancer, being overweight, and also Alzheimer's. So it's the power that sleep has that we tend to think of it as a luxury. Oh well, we'll stay up a bit later, we can squeeze a bit more in. We've got television on 24/7, you could shop 24/7. So it's really, you have to think of that sleep as a real benefit to you mentally and physically, and make sure you do get enough of it. There are some wonderful herbs that actually help with sleep, and some of them have been around for centuries, like valerian and chamomile. You see magnesium there, the L-theanine, and I'll show you just a few of them. I think we've got a bit of time. So this is valerian, and it reduces the amount of time it takes to fall asleep. So that switches the brain off, enables that 15 to 20 minutes, and improves sleep quality. And again, this combination effect. It is much better to have combinations of nutrients and also herbs. And this was more effective when combined with herbs such as hops and lemon balm. You're going to get a much bigger effect because of that synergistic effect of either the nutrients or the herbs themselves. And then chamomile. And some of you will know about having a cup of chamomile tea at night. But what it's doing is actually working as an antioxidant in there called apigenin, and it actually binds to specific receptors in your brain that enables you to switch your brain off so you're not tired and wired, and reducing anxiety generally. And this is lemon balm, and this was a study where they had people who were anxious but also not sleeping well, and it reduced anxiety by 70%, 85% for insomnia, and those people that were suffering from both, it was a 70% decrease or a 70% benefit from taking the lemon balm. And I put this one up with hops, and I did a talk recently, so a lady said to me, well, I'll just drink more beer. I said, wasn't quite what I was suggesting, but the hops can be really useful. Combination of hops and valerian, lower time to sleep onset, increase in total sleep time, and less night awakenings. You're after quantity and quality. You want both of those things, of getting off to sleep quickly and having a good stretch of sleep. Doesn't matter if you have to get up in the middle of the night to go to the toilet, as long as you get back, go back to bed and you're back to sleep again. It's the lying awake for 2 or 3 hours and thinking, oh my goodness, I've got to be up by 7, and then you're really going into a vicious cycle. And then we've got passion flower, and this was an interesting study. 3 herbs together, passion flower, valerian and hops, was as effective as a sleeping medication, Ambien, which is usually used to treat insomnia, improving sleep quality. So we have tools at our disposal that enable you to use natural remedies to change something that may be going on, that may be affecting you the next day, and then you're going around in a vicious circle of needing extra caffeine or energy drinks to keep yourself going. And these are tart cherries. Now, why they work is they help increase melatonin. And melatonin is the opposite hormone to cortisol. Cortisol has got a circadian rhythm. It is higher in the morning when you wake up, revving you up to start the day, and then it should drop away for you to go to sleep. And as it drops away, melatonin should come up. And that's how the tart cherries are helping. They actually naturally increase melatonin in your body. And they increase sleep time in people with insomnia by up to 84 minutes. Back to the L-theanine, that amino acid I mentioned earlier in terms of helping you feel calmer without feeling drowsy. And its main benefit also when we think of sleep is allowing your brain to switch off. So you're not the tired but wired. You've got your head on the pillow, you're absolutely exhausted, but your brain is worrying around about what's gone on that day, what's going to happen the next day, and then you're not actually what we call initiating sleep. You're not getting off to sleep in enough time. So this is the advanced sleep support, and it's 1 hour before bed. And all that's in it are these nutrients and herbs. There's nothing else, no fillers, binders, anti-caking agents. It's in a vegetarian capsule. So it's valerian, chamomile, magnesium, hops, tart cherry, L-theanine, passion flower, lemon balm and glycine. And then you work on your food during the day. So you're not on that roller coaster of ups and downs. You're changing into what's happening during the day. You then also get a good night's sleep as well. So just to finish off, what I found in the clinic is that testing can be really useful. Obviously, if you're worried about your health, you see your GP and you get the usual testing. But over the last decade, in terms of nutrition, we can test things that we never could before. And we can actually test how stressed you are. And I'll show you what it looks like. I'll talk about the omega-6 to 3 ratio, and I'm going to show you the digestive test, which is what we've been talking about today. And all the samples are collected at home, and you just send them off to the lab. So this is the adrenal stress test. We can't measure adrenaline because it's so short-lived and it's gone. It's gone very quickly, but it's cortisol that hangs around. And cortisol should be higher in the morning with this green band and then drops away during the night. And what this person's got is high levels first thing in the morning and in the middle of the morning and then at night as well. And it's done with saliva. the lab asks you to put saliva samples in a kit and then you send it back. But it's useful because you can see the pattern of what's going on during the day. When you do a blood test for cortisol, you have to do it just before 10 o'clock in the morning. You don't get any kind of pattern of what's going on over the day, which is really important because some people it might be higher at night, some it just might be in the middle of the afternoon. But it's all fixable. That's what's really important. If you can test something, you find out deficient or you find out you've got an imbalance, and you can do something about it. That's why the tests are so powerful. And then this is the omega-6 to 3 test. It's done with a finger prick. This was a lady in her 40s, but she had pain all over her body. And she's got 40 times too much omega-6 to omega-3. Again, you can switch it back. So it's important if you've got inflammation, but what we're talking about today in terms of mood, depression, anxiety, really important. And then, because the whole topic of this wonderful week has been your gut microbiome, we can actually measure what's going on digestively. And the test I use, and there's so many now that are available, and the one I use generally in the clinic measures your level of beneficial bacteria, levels of harmful bacteria, candida and other yeasts, parasites and worms, how well you digest and absorb your food, whether you've got inflammation in the gut, and also that detoxification of estrogen. It's the stool sample. You do the stool sample at home, send it to the lab. And this is the front page. There's about 15 pages, and it's looking like a traffic light system. And it gives you maldigestion, inflammation, dysbiosis, that balance of good and bad bacteria, metabolic imbalance, and also infection. Now this was a lady who was getting a lot of digestive problems, but her history was an estrogen and progesterone breast cancer. So she wanted to know what was going on digestively, and also was she clearing out estrogen. So she wasn't good across the board in what was going on. And there was also a parasite there as well. Now if you remember, just think about the red and the green there, and a few months later, these were her results. And the only bit that we needed to work on still was the maldigestion. And if we go back to this one, the biggest issue for her was it was the beta-glucuronidase somewhere down here, which was too high for her. No, it wasn't in that one. It must be a different one. But that's the enzyme that we talked about, the estrogenome. That it's the enzyme within the gut that stops estrogen from being detoxificated and eliminated. And that's what we're trying to measure also with the stool test as well. So that's really something that was important for her to be able to see. And I gave a talk in London a while back, and I had seen a lady in the clinic with irritable bowel syndrome. And she said, I've had this for about 10 years. And she said, I've got symptoms, constipation, diarrhea, they might be alternating. Colonoscopy, all fine, nothing sinister going on. So I said, well, let's do the stool test and see what comes up. And what came back was a parasite. And she said to me, she said, I went on holiday about 10 years ago and I got food poisoning. And I had these symptoms and they sort of went away and came back again. And sitting in there was a parasite. So when we think nutritionally, it's always what is the underlying cause. So in terms of irritable bowel syndrome, which was the diagnosis she was given, why was her bowel irritable? Because she'd got a parasite in there. Or it could have been because she was reacting to certain foods. But it's always trying to find out what the underlying cause is. And I told this story at a talk in London. I think it was a few months back. And a lady said she was sitting in the audience and then she had this light bulb moment. She said she'd been to Bali 25 years ago and she'd got these symptoms that she'd been living with all of this time, and they told her they couldn't do anything, all the checks, colonoscopy, everything were fine. And then we did the stool test and she'd got a parasite in there. So she said to me, it wasn't nice to think there's something in there all the time, but for her, she'd got an answer. It wasn't, well, it's just one of those things. There was an answer and something could be done about it. So sometimes finding out that there is an imbalance, the gut bacteria aren't good, that there's some inflammation in there, it's something you can do about it. It's when the tests all the time come back normal and yet you know they're not normal and there is something going on, that's when you feel like you've hit a brick wall. So, I've written a number of books. We brought a few with us today. The Alzheimer's one, Fat Around the Middle, and also particularly because I have a passion around women's health, the Natural Health Bible that covers everything, and also the menopause one as well. So I put up here the clinic information. Most of them are Zoom now, in Ireland and well actually all over the world, because people can access us from South Africa as they do, and the labs send all the kits everywhere. It's absolutely brilliant. So anything to do with stress and anxiety, digestion, anything to do with your gut microbiome and measuring it, fatigue, thyroid, female hormone problems, particularly menopause and osteoporosis, and also the email there if you've got any queries, and also the phone number as well. And I think today there's a special saving we've got on the consultations if you're interested. So I'm suggesting you listen to your gut, you sleep well, you reduce stress, and you transform your health. And I know the difference small changes can make, because I've seen it year after year in people in the clinic, how it just makes such a difference by making these small changes, particularly with the timing of your food. So this would be, in the context of what we're talking about today, this would be your supplement program. You've got the Tranquil Support, the Omega-3 and the Advanced Probiotic. You're thinking about your gut bacteria, you're thinking about the Omega-3, which is controlling inflammation, but also working on your brain and reducing anxiety, depression, moods as well, and the Tranquil, so that stress is not driving everything and driving your microbiome to be in more of a negative situation. You don't want that, but stress will drive that as it does the other aspects of your health, and also the advanced sleep support there as well. So I think there is a saving on the supplements as well. It might be 25%, I'm not sure, but we'll let you know. I'm happy to stand around down there and answer. If you've got personal questions, it doesn't matter if it's not completely connected to the topic today. Happy to talk about anything. And also, if you've got relatives you're worried about and you'd just like to talk it through, happy to do that as well. I'm not rushing off. I know the next person's got to come on here, but I'm happy to stand around as well if you've got any queries. The names of the books, well, I've written 17 of them, but that's a few.
And the next one?
One I did earlier.
So yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Marilyn Glenville.